All right. Welcome back to another episode of Marvel News Desk, your best place to keep up with all the latest news, reviews, and speculation concerning Marvel films and TV shows. Adam is here, Rhiannon is here, I am here, I'm Caleb. We are all here for Loki episode 6 and a few other things.
Hell yeah.
We're here for real this time. I'm not just gonna talk a little bit in jet.
Yeah.
You're here in the flesh as much as one can be via Zoom.
But if you guys didn't listen the other week all the way to the end, it looks like we may actually all be in the same room in October. Still not official, but we're trying.
Adam, buy airfare now.
I might. I don't know what my schedule's like. I don't know. Like I'm trying to go to a convention next weekend, and I won't know until Wednesday or Thursday if I can go, just because life and scheduling and stuff like that. But
yeah, you would just think this is a thing where your work life should theoretically collaborate with your wanting to have fun life. That's all.
Yeah, and it's what, it's even crazy when you write about comics and then you write comics. It's like very murky, and it's oftentimes hard to separate, the stuff. So it's very confusing on trying to do stuff like that. But we'll see. I mean, I'm planning on it. I'm planning on going to New York Comic Con.
Yep.
I need to find my anxiety beads. Where are they at? I dropped them. If you heard the loud clink earlier. You guys have these things?
No, are they like
rub around in your hand as a little fidgety thing?
I do not. I need fidgety things though.
I thought you were. Otherwise, I break stuff.
In Greece, they had kind of prayer bead type things. They were kind of almost like a bracelet that had little beads around it, and you kind of flick the beads forward with your thumb and just work your way around the circle. And I was like, oh, this is a very old practice for something that someone will commodify soon to help deal with anxiety.
I always want it. Every time I see it, I said, I'm getting one of those cubes. What are they called? The cubes. There's a light switch. Yeah, fidget cubes. There's a light switch on one side and then a spinny thing on another and dots on another. But alas, I am stuck with my anxiety beads.
Every time I see something like that, I just imagine some nun being like, we've had rosary beads for a long time, guys. These have been around for a bit.
I'm I've got 20 pounds of Mardi Gras beads, but
20 pounds, huh, Rhiannon? 20 pounds
because I scaled down.
You had even more?
When you live in New Orleans, you accumulate Mardi Gras beads through completely wholesome ways.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They have family events, the parades and stuff are family events, and everybody throws beads. I had so many beads.
Wait, all the parades are family events? My whole life's been a lot.
All the parades.
Okay.
Just in the same way we do not give legal or financial advice, even on travel advice.
You never take advice for what to do with a child from me. Caleb is the one that says, is this movie or event appropriate for children? But there are a lot of Mardi Gras parades uptown that are very family. It's a family event.
Get yourself a beignet, get yourself some beads, maybe a shrimp po' boy. Shrimp po' boys are big down there, right? Is that a New Orleans thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I assume, Rhiannon, a lot of that's the club or whatever that I forget they're called, but the club
crew
that hosts it, the crew. Yeah.
So there's all sorts of parades, but and it's very much, which ones are raunchy and which ones aren't. But if they are huge, there's parades that are, the ones that you see with celebrities and everything, those are all big city endorsed. Well, they're all city endorsed, but there's, they're big and they're all privately run. That's what the city doesn't pay for any of the parades or anything. But they're all family events. Yeah. But in the French Quarter, there's the Crew de Ville, and Crew de Ville is especially raunchy. If you've ever watched Treme, which everybody should, it's an HBO series. They show Crew de the first Crew de Ville after Mardi Gras, and it's raunchy.
Yeah.
Welcome to New Orleans News Desk, where we teach you how to get Mardi Gras beads without showing your chest to all French Quarter.
I didn't realize till we went down there and went to like there's like what do you call it? Like there's one of the big factories that like makes the floats that you can go
Mardi
visit
Gras
or
World.
whatever. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't realize like the whole crew culture that's like half like civic club, sort of like a gang, but also more wholesome most of the time. It's just a fascinating world to me.
Wasn't that stuff in Cloak and Dagger?
There was a little bit.
Partly?
Cloak and Dagger hit on the New Orleans culture a tiny little bit. I think they had the Mardi Gras Indians a little bit too, if I remember correctly. It's been a while.
Man, it has been a while. Remember, that was a pretty nice little show too.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Rip.
But yeah, I mean, I could talk about New Orleans and Mardi Gras and all that. But yeah, the Blake Heron's Mardi Gras World is right there on the river. If anybody's visiting New Orleans, I encourage going to visit because you get a nice education.
Yeah.
On that whole culture and everything.
All right. We don't have a ton of new stuff. Let's talk a little bit about two quick news things. First of all, box office. So Black Widow made about 80 million in the US last weekend. Made another 70, 75, I forget the exact number worldwide. And then in a shocker, Disney announced that it made 60 million worldwide on Premier Access. They did not give a domestic Premier Access number, except to say that it must have been at least 20 million because they said they made over 100 million of something they're calling consumer spend in the United States. So,
it's insane they don't do this for every movie, man. It's insane. I mean, it didn't hurt the box office, right?
I mean,
it's above average. I mean, it's certainly more than any movie in the past 14, 16 months.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. It's really weird. You read, I mean, it is far and away the best release since COVID, but then I'm constantly reading box office people that are like, well, when you compare it to the rest of the MCU, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, this sucked, blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm just confused. Like, I don't know. It feels like people are like, well, COVID shouldn't change their like grosses that much. Have you lived through the last year and a half?
Right.
You know, like it's kind of a freaking big deal.
And you have areas, I mean, there's a lot of the world that's not yet open. There's a lot of the country that's not comfortable going out. There's China. It's not even available in theaters in China yet, is it?
No.
And I wonder, I mean, but isn't there also a side of this where Disney, I mean, that money that came through Disney Plus, they get all of that. But with box office returns, they don't get all of that money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, detractors are saying the difference is only like 60% to 80%. But I still would like to look at those numbers because I hear people say, well, there are participations and stuff on Premier Access, but the 60% is pre-participations on the box office side. Like that's just the theater cut. So yeah, it would seem that there is a good chunk of money. Server space is not that expensive. Like Disney is bringing in a good chunk of all of that Premier Access money. And so I would not be surprised if this was a top 10 opening for them as far as what made it to their pockets, all things considered. Because they have lost China, but China is also has got the least margin for Disney of anywhere they distribute. So
was this you that tweeted about it, Caleb? But there's also less international cinemas open now than there was last year because of lockdowns and stuff. I saw someone tweeting about it, about how there's hardly any. I mean, Australia's shut down and it's not showing in China, and so there's a comparison. But Black Widow has fewer international screens than like a Bloodshot or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I've seen it both in theaters and on Disney Plus. And
so what's a normal opening weekend box office? Like if we go back and look at Captain Marvel or, you know, not Endgame, but
right.
You know.
So for Marvel. So this is where it gets really hard. Captain Marvel and Black Panther both, I think, were like 150 realm or something like that.
Okay.
And so that's what everyone's comparing this to. But if you go a little further back and you compare Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, any of the other first films in a franchise, it's not that far off. Like it's actually kind of par for the course for phase 1 and phase 2 opening weekends for Marvel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's huge,
Right.
considering the current environment. To come even that close without China, without Australia, without all without all of the people willing to go to theaters, I think this is huge.
So domestically, Black Panther did 202 and Captain Marvel did 153. And so that's what a lot of people are comparing to. But if you scale back to other first appearances or first solo movies, Spider-Man Homecoming was 117, Iron Man was 98, Guardians made 94, um Thor the Dark World or Doctor Strange did 85, Thor did 65, Cap First Avenger did 65, Ant-Man did 57, and Hulk did 55. So like if you just do first movies in the franchise, this is pretty much middle of the pack. Like it's a little lower than say a Guardians did. Given where we're at, and given that 80 number does not include at least tens of millions of dollars of Disney Premier Access, I'm struggling to understand why. The only way that this is down is if you ignore the fact that, oh, I don't know, the entire freaking world got turned on its head 18 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
So that is what that is. You can now I should say the second weekend drop looks precipitous. So it's like a 70% drop is what it's looking at right now. Usually they hope for 50 and get 60. 70% is a big drop. And I'm sure some of that second viewings. I would usually with Marvel be watching it a second time this weekend. I watched it on Premier Access instead. So, which in a weird way, they made more money because it cost me $30 to watch it at my house. It only would have cost me $10 if I'd gone to see it at the theater. So
Well, and that's what I think that, yeah, I'm with you there. The being able to buy it and watch it in your house unlimited is going to keep people, that'll make those drops in the theater. But I wonder how long it'll just sort of trickle, as if it gets to stay in theaters because people are going. But yeah, I mean, I saw it last weekend for the second time. A friend set up a screen in the backyard and we did like a backyard, like all 5 of us watching it. And it was really cool to do. And I know some other people that have done that, but that is keeping them from getting the money in their pockets.
yeah.
Was Disney one of these studios to do a decreased like theatrical window deal?
I believe so. I know that is certainly true for Shang-Chi. I think if I'm right, it's a 45-day window before it will go free on Premiere on Disney Plus. So,
because I mean, it would be insane. Disney would just clean up if they gave them 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, who's gonna keep going? Watching it for the first time 3 weeks out. Like that third weekend. If they could do Premiere Access that third weekend, I mean, why wouldn't? I mean, I would buy it on the third weekend. I would buy everything on the third weekend, probably, after seeing it in theaters. So, I don't know.
it does also feel like a total Rorschach test for me whenever I hear people talk about the price point. Because I see so many tweets that are like $30 is way too much for premium access. And I see other people that are like $30 is way too little for premium. And it's totally, do you have a family and or watch it in a group of friends like Rhiannon just said, or do you go by yourself? Because if you go by yourself to the movie theaters, $30 is a lot. But if you go with a group of 5 people, $30 is cheap. Like it totally is.
Even
Different.
if you get the movie ticket, a soda, and popcorn, you're definitely above 20.
Yeah.
I think last time I did that, it was like $24 for the soda and popcorn. I'm craving popcorn so bad, guys. I was thinking that last night. I'm like, I might go to the theater and get popcorn, but I didn't, and I still haven't. So I might do that for
You
lunch.
can't pop it at home?
I don't have any. So it's either would I go to get popcorn or would I go to the movie theater and just get the real stuff anyways?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the conundrum I'm in. I mean, probably both is what I'll end up doing after
That's
I go drown myself in some fried rice. But
I'm glad you shared that struggle with us, Adam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope
It was
you
We're
brave.
talking
got
about
that
the
off your
box
chest.
office. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking box office. We're
Yeah.
partially food news desk, and I'm just craving
I
popcorn.
know,
Man.
but it was just like the heartfelt
saltier, the
manner that you
better.
shared your
Like,
popcorn dilemma. It was really touching.
it's all that's been on my mind.
So our theater continues to try to promote crap that is a corporate level thing that the local level doesn't care about. So they've been pushing the like order your snacks ahead and then pick up in the express line, you know? So the other day we did it. We're like, hey, we're going to go. We had to go straight from work because it was an early screening. And so we're like, we're going to order our snacks ahead and do the express line. There is no express line. You just wait in line with everyone else and then you show them their phone and then they make it as if you ordered it in person.
Yeah.
It saves you nothing. And this theater, every time they do a promotion like this, we're like, hey, you guys are advertising this. They're like, oh no, it's corporate. We don't care. And we're like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, great, wonderful.
What's the go-to theater? We've never talked about like theater candy, theater foods. Are you guys pretzels and cheese? Are you guys, I mean, do you guys go to frequent the theaters where you just get a full 5-course meal with the
No.
recliner seats with all that? Just popcorn, Sour Patch Kids, Dots, Junior Mints. What are we doing? Usually here it's at least popcorn price, some SPK, the Sour Patch Kids, and maybe a soda. I'm cutting down on the soda, guys. I'm cutting down on the dew. The dew's slowly going away. So I don't know what this means for my theater snacks, but popcorn's still gonna stay. So the blood pressure's still gonna be up, and yeah, Sour Patch Kids. What about you two? Like, we've never talked about theater treats.
I do popcorn with butter, and that's all I do.
That's it.
And I mean, that's what I feel so wasted. I live across the street from an Alamo theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate that they have like popcorn with real butter.
Yeah.
But like that's what I do at home. At home, I pop popcorn on the stove and put butter on it. So like, I don't know, if I wanted that, I'd watch it at home. Alamo has uncomfortable chairs. One of my favorite things is AMC theaters, and I don't know if they're doing it post-pandemic, but they had like $5 Tuesdays where like your tickets are $5 and you could get popcorn for $5 and maybe a drink. I don't know. I don't usually get the drinks, but yeah, I'm just popcorn and butter. And that AMC deal is just awesome, especially for like your second viewing of a show or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the pretzel nuggets with cheese.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
However, our theater also falsely advertises them. They're always on the signs. Only about 36% of the time are they actually available, which is very infuriating. But I like the pretzel. If I can't get the pretzel nuggets, they do deluxe nachos, which are just a bag of chips, but they give you salsa and cheese and a thing of jalapenos. And I enjoy that. But they haven't been doing the jalapenos since COVID. I guess they don't feel like they can COVID safely cut jalapenos up, I guess. I don't know.
Well, maybe you eat the jalapenos and it gets your nose running, and that means that the COVID is coming out easier.
That's right.
So
As we all know, the way that you fight COVID, instead of just injecting bleach into your veins, you need to just have a lot of jalapenos, and they'll force the COVID out through your nose.
Say goodbye to the Delta variant, everybody.
We also do not do medical advice on this podcast.
We don't do medical advice.
Okay. The other thing I want to talk about was Emmy nominations. So the Emmy nominations came out. Disney Plus got a ton, but Marvel Studios specifically got 28, I think. Like 23 of them were for WandaVision. It was the second most nominated show after The Mandalorian. Big thing though is it was above the what they call above the line stuff too. So like Elizabeth Olsen was nominated, Paul Bettany was nominated, the show was nominated for best limited series, and then in total bizarreness, Don Cheadle was nominated for best supporting actor in a drama.
Insane thing. That means more than one person said, you know what, let's give him a shot, which is the most insane thing. Whatever. Like, I loved his reaction. I mean, because why, But that's the only one Falcon and Winter Soldier got, but non-technical one
Right.
they got, I guess. I think they got stunts and sound mixing or something. I still don't know what the hell sound mixing is really, but
That's what Caleb does with the podcast after we're done.
And I have yet to get nominated by the potties or whatever they
potties, the
call them.
webbies, the Marvelies.
They just don't know what material you start with. You're
true.
so
We need to send a sizzle reel of how much hot garbage this sounds like before I mess with it.
Just send them the first minute where we're all groggy at the beginning and talking about showing everyone your unmentionables in New Orleans. And like, oh, okay, yeah, there you go. There's a Webby.
I do think it's like significant. I don't know. The industry people are paying a lot more attention to Disney Plus than they ever paid attention to Marvel stuff on ABC or Netflix or whatever. Like, I'm willing to admit, as much as I love WandaVision, the idea that it's deserving of all these noms and Daredevil never was deserving of any nominations, like it just shows you that this Disney Plus thing has a degree of clout on the award side that is significant.
Is it Disney Plus though? Because no other Disney Plus stuff besides nerd stuff.
I mean, do you think
blockbuster stuff?
Do you think High School Musical, the musical, the series, deserves any Emmy nods?
People say it's good, man.
I enjoyed it. I don't think it's Emmy worthy.
I'll tell you what. This is totally random. Tony Hale in the Mysterious Benedict Society. He is totally worthy of a nomination next year round. This show is awesome. I love it. It's me and my 11-year-old, the only people watching it, but you should watch it. It's very good.
There we go. I mean, I think it's great that this stuff is getting above the line recognition. I mean, Daredevil did get some nominate. I mean, like the Netflix stuff got below the line nominations.
Yeah.
I think the Don Cheadle is just weird. I mean, somebody obviously just wanted him to have recognition for, that happens all the time with these award shows. Somebody never gets the recognition for something where they deserved it, so they get the nomination somewhere else because people felt guilty over that. But I think it's a really cool thing. Interesting that they're all limited series. I mean, WandaVision at least had 9 episodes, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the line between limited series and TV series these days?
I think it's just the one shot of episodes or whatever, right?
So it's bizarre. The non-continuing, I would say, is it, except for Falcon and Winter Soldier is not supposed to be continuing, and they put it up in the drama category. And so some of this is just a game that is played.
Oh yeah.
Because like Lin-Manuel Miranda is nominated for Hamilton, but it's not like as a TV move. It was like, I don't know. It's like bizarre.
Yeah.
And now they're doing weird things where like some of the streaming services are taking like long movies and cutting them into like 3 45-minute episodes so that they technically qualify for the Emmys. And so there's soon going to be rules where the Oscars and Emmys are going to like hash out what can and can't be on each, because a lot of places are trying to double dip and get nominated for both, which is bizarre.
Speaking of this falls, you guys probably don't even pay attention to John Wick, right? But what Lionsgate's doing with the Continental TV show, 3 episodes, $20 million a piece. And it's essentially a movie trilogy because they're going to be between 90 to like 110 minutes long. But
that feels like Sherlock to me, right?
Yeah. Sherlock was like that. And it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. It was like you had a fresh little movie, like an easily watchable, fresh movie.
So, yeah, I mean, is it a TV show if you're watching just 3 movies in 3 straight nights or something?
To me, that's a mini series. That's a legit limited event.
Yeah.
I think the reality of this, and we've talked about this on our like reviews of Loki and stuff, increasingly we have to give up on our traditional definitions of movies and TV shows to some degree. Like we're just increasingly getting content where at the very least the people producing the content have zero interest in the traditional dividing lines that we care about. So even if we feel like there still should be TV shows, I don't think Kevin Feige cares, and they're kind of enjoying messing with the format.
It does seem interesting. I mean, Feige said that, you know, they're making television shows too, which seems really interesting. I assumed he would like never say embrace television, but then you have people like James Gunn who says that he practically doesn't want to make anything besides television after working on Peacemaker. You know, he says he loves it so much.
And that's what, I mean, I have been hearing, like I listened to the Script Notes podcast with Craig Mazin that I bring him up all the time in this subject. But for a long time, he was like poo-pooing on television all day, every day. And then when he got to make an HBO series, he was like, no, television's great. This is the story I want to tell. This is where I can tell it. This is the power I have always wanted as a screenwriter. This is, you know, there's so much value in television. And I think pretending, you know, trying to turn it into a completely different medium is going to devalue that. But I say that as a big fan of television.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it, Rhiannon, the way that writers at Disney Plus are kind of showrunners now. If you're strictly
directors are showrunners.
Yeah, direct.
Is it that way or is it the other way?
Traditionally, writers are showrunners, but they're doing it with directors as showrunners. And that's where I think Disney Plus is going wrong.
But, you know, so that's weird, though, because like Michael Waldron, to me, Michael Waldron was a much bigger, like the way that they interviewed and everything, he shaped Loki far more than Kate Herron did, as far as I can tell.
Yet Kate Herron made the final decisions regarding the mood, the lighting, the costumes, the everything like that. And typically the showrunner picks the costumes, the decisions on the actors and all of that. And it just it creates that incongruity. You know, that I think that's where in a movie you can have that. The one director can see all of that. They can take the written word and they can turn it into this vision. But the director, I mean, yes, the writer puts all that down, but then the director executes. And without having the writer involved in that whole process, you're in a different, are you guys still there? Yeah. You're in a different world.
You just froze though. It is going to be interesting. I was talking about this. I'm not sure if Rhiannon was in this convo or not on a certain Discord, but it's going to be interesting to see how it goes when we get to some Disney Plus show that has multiple directors. You know, because Marvel really stresses the head writer title and the director title. Speaking of which, Kate Herron's done. I'm not sure if you were going to bring that up. That's kind of crappy, but Kate Herron's already done with Loki. And I don't. Marvel Studios is doing it the way they want to do it, and it's a win and a lose, right? As like, I mean, of course, I would want to write for Marvel, you know, but at the same time, I can't imagine some established writer wanting to go in the ecosystem, right? Because how much creative freedom do you actually have? You know, I mean, it's you walk in and they know what they're going to do story wise, you know, and you're just there to write dialogue and you know, plot beats and stuff like that.
So I am really confused, Ryan. I don't know if you've heard on like Miss Marvel, they're going to have 3 different teams of directors. Mm-hmm. So how are they a showrunner if they're not even there for every episode?
Are they calling the lead writer a show writer, or are they calling it lead writer? I haven't followed.
Head writer is
head writer.
Like Michael Waldron was head writer, and
well, I know, but maybe Miss Marvel they're changing course.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like there's one main writer for Miss Marvel, but there's like a bunch of directors.
I mean, they've been using the term lead writer instead of showrunner.
Right. And Miss Marvel was kind of a bit of a turning point because they are doing, I think Moon Knight has team directors now too. Maybe She-Hulk.
I mean, and that's the thing. Usually you don't have a singular director there for the whole series because in a TV series, the director, they can't do everything for every episode. So a director might come in, let's say like Daredevil, the episode with the church fight. While they're wrapping up that episode before, the director of that episode is going out, they're scouting the church. They're, getting locations, they're getting any extras hired. They're doing that type of stuff. And they can't be watching the finishing of the filming of the previous episode. So to do all of the director stuff, they can't do it for every episode. So you have to have multiple directors in that situation, which is also a reason why the showrunner can be there for most of it.
Could you imagine directing 22 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Man, that would be exhausting. Are there even still long? I'm sure the procedurals and stuff are still 20 some episode seasons, aren't they? Or the NCISs of the world and such. I can't even remember the last time I've watched one of those shows.
So I'm just looking at, and I just have IMDb. Miss Marvel right now under writing credits only has created by, and then all 6 episodes for the person that we've heard of as the head writer. And then there's 4 different directors. One's doing 3 episodes and each of the others are doing 1. But then over at Loki, it has it says 7. I don't know what's up with that. All 6 episodes were written by Michael Waldron, and the series is directed by Kate Herron.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're changing things around for Miss Marvel, and maybe that will fix some of the things that just seem to be areas for improvement so far.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Loki. It is over. As usual, we have, I think, very different opinions in the room on it, which is, I don't know, I think the charm of our podcast. No matter what you felt about it, you'll find one of us that probably felt that way about it as well.
And I loved it, so you guys can't leave me any more bad reviews this week. So
Adam is Mr. Positive today. Yeah. So Adam, you were into it, man.
It's probably the most comic booky thing we've ever gotten from Marvel Studios. Right up there with Spider-Man getting dragged by a Pegasus while whipping Thor's hammer. It was so, they went where most people wanted them to go. That was Kang. Let's just get that out of the way. That was Kang. We'll probably argue about that. I'm not sure if Caleb has thoughts.
Is anybody arguing that? Like, is there anybody in good faith arguing this on the internet?
Yes, there's people on Twitter and in comment sections arguing that it's not Kang. But
did he never say his name? He only said He Who Remains.
Right. Well, who's the actual legitimate character from the comics? But I think he was in 3 comics or 5 comics or something like that. So it's not like. I mean, sure, there's probably 2 people out there that are upset that they didn't go comic accurate. I mean, he wore Immortus's costume for Christ's sake. It's
Well, did he show us any powers?
No. Well, he's just a very smart person.
He blipped around.
Right, but Kang, that's Kang. Kang doesn't have powers. He's a smart guy that has lots of cool technology.
From the end of time. So they have some cojones, man, dumping just a 46-minute exposition dump as the series or season finale. But I thought it worked. I mean, it answered most questions I think I had, in the sense that no one really knows what the hell's going on, and shit's just crazy, with the multiverse and stuff. What they did with the multiverse makes total sense. Everything's canon. Round of applause for our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans. Guys, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. matters once again. Congratulations. Daredevil, Iron Fist, Inhumans. Caleb, congrats to send my regards to
Jennifer Garner's Elektra.
Jennifer Garner's Elektra, which was written, by the way, by M. Raven Metzner. And yeah, I mean, everything. This is the way they needed to go to make stuff more exciting than Avengers Endgame, right? I I mean, we knew the multiverse was coming with Doctor Strange 2, Maguire, Garfield are in Spider-Man No Way Home, but just seeing it unfold with Kang and Jonathan Majors, man, what a GD superstar. He is probably, I would not be surprised if he's already filmed other stuff for other properties.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, maybe Doctor Strange 2, maybe. He is going to be in, I would say by 2025, he might have the most individual credits of anyone in the MCU.
I think what's really funny about it is it makes me think of a heist movie where they're like, all right, here's all the plans for our heist. And then there's something like totally ridiculous and spectacular that has to happen for it to work. And you're like, oh, okay, that's bold. That's to me the writer's room for Loki. Hey, this is what the last episode is going to look like, and it'll all be fabulous if Jonathan Majors is brilliant. And it's like, well, do we want to pin the whole show on Jonathan Majors being brilliant? They did, and it worked out because he was so good.
It was super interesting that Kate. So what I'm gonna miss about Kate Herron is the fact that she's super candid with everything. Like she just gives the press what they want, and I think Entertainment Weekly has a good story with both her and Majors. And apparently, Major's performance on Loki is what got him cast as Kang or something like that. It's all out there. She explains it how she actually met with Peyton Reed to make sure Majors was in Quantumania. I loved it. I mean, obviously, if it was a series finale, it wouldn't be as awesome because it's like, what the hell? I mean, if it was the series finale, I mean, it's right up there with Lost but it's not. It's the season finale. We're getting season 2. I have no idea where the hell season 2 is going to go or when it's going to come because it's probably 2023 at the very earliest, maybe.
Yeah, we can talk about release schedules a little bit. That's going to be weird.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved Loki episode 6. The exposition was all right. I mean, Majors carried the episode on his back, so.
Rhiannon, what do you think?
I found it unmemorable. I felt like Majors. I didn't know anything about Majors, so I looked him up because his performance to me came off as a British actor that was trying to do an American accent and kind of failing, like throwing certain words in that had like a little Britishism to him, which was just. And when I looked him up, he's American. Mm-hmm. So I assume that was an acting choice, and you can always write it off as he's the man at the end of time. He who remains. He's gone a bit crazy, clearly. I felt like this episode told us a whole lot, but it would have been nice to see. I mean, I feel like the whole season, now that we've seen it, could have had so much more action and showing us story. And really, guys, I mean, we did not get Mobius on a jet ski, so fail. I loved the twist at the end. I loved that angsty, useless Loki ended up in like some different universe with a Mobius that doesn't know him and a Renslayer that does, or a B-15 that doesn't know him, or B-20, I forget her number. But anyways, I mean, I loved that twist. Finally, they did. I mean, I feel like the series finally did some things that were surprising and unexpected and just interesting. It truly, if this wasn't a series that we would be talking about this weekend, if it wasn't something that would be that I knew future properties would be going, I would not remember this series a month later. Right. If it wasn't a Marvel property, if it didn't have this impact on other things coming, I would just totally forget about it in a month.
Right. And that brings us back to the discussion where, Marvel Studios does get away with a significant amount because we know they will answer and or correct stuff in future properties, right? We know Spider-Man No Way Home's coming. We know Doctor Strange 2's coming. But if Loki was a standalone show, like, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm always looking for in this stuff. Like, give me the show that I can recommend to everybody that doesn't watch these shows already. And they would just be confused.
Yeah. I mean, who can hop into Loki and understand what the hell's going on? Maybe someone can, but I don't think.
And the thing is, that first episode of Loki was nothing but exposition of what's going on and who he was and everything that he did. So you used 1/6 of his series doing that, and it doesn't sell to me as a standalone. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Like I said, they did a lot of they did a lot of things that I've been asking for a while. I felt like it could have been more interesting. I mean, I feel like everybody that loves Kang and that like has really been wanting Kang loves it because they gave Kang. And I feel like Jonathan Majors, I mean, he was there, he did his performance. I'm interested to see him in future performances, but I'm not as in love with his performance as everybody else is. And I feel awful saying that.
Yeah, that's weird because to me, go ahead. I don't know. I loved it so much. Like, to me, this is Heath Ledger Joker, like, caliber tier. The mixture of being charming and funny, but also a total psychopathic menace. Like, he's the kind of guy you'd love to sit down and have a beer with, except for you're suspicious he'd kill you in the middle of it. Like, I just love the ambiguity to him. And I loved the way it's set up because there can be so many Kang variants. He's going to get to play this character, but he's going to get to play it 14 different ways based on what universe he's coming from. And I felt like this one was about seeding it. And so, like, a manic, crazy, hilarious Kang is on the cards somewhere. And I don't know, Peyton Reed as a comedic director might get that out of him. But then there could be one where he'd be a serious general that just wants to slice everybody's throat. And I totally would buy that as well. Like, he held, I don't know, the way he would like give you a little something and then pull it back and the way they even use the camera movement to zoom in on him and then pull back from him and zoom in, like, it gave you that uncertainty of, I don't know if I can trust this guy, which layered with the whole conversation of, Sylvie, can you really trust a Loki? She's hearing that from a Kang, the only other type of variant more untrustworthy than a Loki. And I thought that was all just really smart. The whole time I felt like I was trying to guess and figure out, where are we going to go? Like, it very much kept attention to me the whole way through.
I'm glad you loved it.
I do want to bring up the T word, Caleb. It feels like we are officially past the whole timeline multiversal stuff, right?
This was a complete validation of the timeline multiverse.
Okay, but we're past that now. You don't have to go to 1972 to go to Earth 3 or whatever.
So if you're in one of the branches that came off the big circle, right, which is the sacred timeline, if you want to go from one of those branches to another branch, you have to go into the sacred timeline, through the sacred timeline, and then back out one of those branches.
Do you though?
Yes, that's the way
Loki,
it works.
No, because Loki had no problem swapping universes using a TemPad.
So yeah, but the TemPads are just shorthand, so they don't have to show us the quantum tunneling that they showed us in Endgame. But it's all based on time travel.
There's no who says they travel through the quantum realm for the TemPads. They didn't even explain. They didn't explain. They didn't even bring up the quantum realm once, did they?
I'm just saying they showed us a physical manifestation of what this looks like, what the multiverse looks like. and it is branches all branched off of the sacred timeline.
Yeah, not anymore. I mean, look at the final shot where there's zero really timelines to be felt, and it's very reminiscent of space instead of timelines.
Yeah, but what you're seeing is a visualization of space-time.
Oh, I'm just saying it's the multiverse, and you can go from Earth 1 to Earth 2 without having to deal with timeline stuff.
I don't think philosophically that's the way that theirs works, but sure. I mean,
Right.
no, you're right that as you watch it as a viewer, they will have, just like they have a Doctor Strange, people will be able to use a sling ring and create a circle and jump from one universe to the other. Conceptually, at the root of the philosophical way they have built the universe, that is technically a form of time travel. But I agree they will not bring that up every time they do it.
Right, so we're past that. It was what I just said. We're past that whole explanation thing, and now they can just hop between universe to universe to universe to universe without the numbers going across the screen saying they're in 1972.
Yeah, I mean, sure. In my brain, I'm going to be going back to this image from this episode of all the branches. I'm going to think, oh, they must have gone back in time to the main sacred timeline.
Why would you do that to yourself, though? Because there's no way to ever prove that unless they come up with one of those old Disney movie maps where the boat's going across the ocean or something. I mean, Kang's not going to be coming from 1927 or whatever. He's coming from a different universe where he's been, which is each universe has their own TVA, right?
There's multiple TVAs now, is my understanding.
So how do we explain?
But is there, or is there a new Kang that wanted to control the fate of the universe, so they created an alternate TVA?
So I guess,
and they happen to prune the exact same people.
So where I have concerns, and we'll see how it goes, I have seen people suggest, oh no, maybe they changed the time travel logic, and whatever happened with Sylvie and Kang led to the TVA just changing.
Mm-hmm.
That bothers me significantly because it completely undoes the entire way the universe has been built. I think it's more likely that there are multiple TVAs that are in different timelines that different Kangs have created.
What about the diagram of the stacked universes that had nothing to do with the timeline?
Well, the stacked universes have to do with the timeline because the timeline keeps you from having stacked universes.
Yeah. After this show, it is so clear. If the way
look at the, I'm not saying he had nothing to do with the timeline. He says he found the stacked universes, and they eventually crossed over because all the Council of Kings got together.
And then he created the TVA to keep
and then
from
he
having
separated
the
his own timeline out, and he had to create the TVA to keep it separate from the other universes.
Yeah, but the whole way that Kang has regulated the multiverse is by regulating the timeline. He wouldn't have formed the TVA if there was another way to do it. It was the time variance authority because timeline ruptures are the source of where all multiversal stuff comes from.
Caleb's right. Adam's wrong.
No, there's infinite possibilities. So you're telling me that Squadron Supreme only exists in the timeline that branched off from July 4th, 1976 at 5 a.m. Central Time, 5 a.m. and 36 seconds and 27 milliseconds. And yes. And the Squadron Supreme only exists in that one timeline.
I would say in a multiverse like this, there should be millions of Squadron Supremes that exist in millions of alternate timelines that branched at millions of different junctures. And some of them will look very similar and some of them will look different. But there shouldn't be one Squadron Supreme. There should be millions, but there should also be hundreds of millions that don't have a Squadron Supreme. Remember, we have an infinite amount of universes now because there's an infinite amount of points at which the divergences happen.
Which means the multiverse is real, and we can see Wesley Snipes' Blade crossover, and we could see Daredevil crossover, and we could see all of Daredevil's villains crossover, and we could see Turk, and we could see Iron Fist, and we could see Quicksilver, and now Loki is before WandaVision. So Ralph
except for they very quickly created a new TVA to weed out the crap.
Well, it's interesting though, Rhiannon, because we don't know what the TVA that Loki ends up in is doing.
Well, I mean, the conversation he walks into is them analyzing that branches are forming. So they clearly monitor branches and do something in that regard.
Right. But they said, we don't know what he wants us to do. There's a lot. You get the sense that like that TVA is about, let's not let this get out of control. It's like, oh, we've had branches before, but this is way more than we've ever had.
Well, even in the original TVA, I didn't get the feeling they weren't crossing every branch, or they weren't pruning every branch ever. They were pruning the branches that created.
They went to the red line.
So like evidently, you could have that river theory of, it's not every butterfly flap. It's, if the butterfly flaps its wings too hard. The river theory that they had on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, yeah.
Right. Well, and I've heard somebody hypothesize, I think it's good, that the red line is the point at which a new timeline creates a new Kang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally makes sense. And the fact that this is all just a power struggle of Kang versus his other Kangs, I don't know. This is another reason I love this show. The thematic stuff about power and how people use power and how they use it to form bureaucracy and religion and faith, and the way people value security and structure, and potentially how that affects how they view the truth. Like, I found the philosophical stuff just causes me to come back and think about this show. So much so that for me, it's probably the Disney Plus show I will think about the most when it's over, because I go right back into all the philosophical stuff that's at the root of it.
There you have it, children. If you want supreme power over everything, you have to make up the most complex timeline, multiversal thing in the possible history of all things. So, but all right, I'm done with it. I'm not. What's the next topic?
I'm telling you, Adam, you won't do it, but there's great like TEDx videos about like quantum physics.
That's not Marvel stuff, and anyone could say what the hell they want. You can listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's going to say something about different than some guy who until there's irrefutable proof that Jeff Bezos actually is from a different reality or some bullshit like that. Yeah, it's nothing but theories,
That's true.
We're talking about superheroes here that travel through time in a Norse god. So, whatever. Kang brought out the different universes, and I still don't understand how the timeline, his sacred timeline branches out to all those other ones. But, yeah, it's whatever. How's that work? We saw the three different universes stacked on one of the top of each other. So we still didn't see those really interact with each other. We just saw the one sacred timeline split into a bunch of different timelines. So where do those other stacked universes come into play?
Oh, see, those are different. They're different branches that all have the same overlap of time. So like if one of the branches happened in 1920, another one in 1950, another 1980, they all are going to have a moment that is 2000. And if you cut that like you cut a cake, you would see those three universes stacked on top of each other in the year 2000, but their roots go back to a different place.
That's insane, and that's stupid, and whatever. They didn't explain that. They didn't say no. I know for a fact they didn't say that in the final episode.
Right. To me, it is the most consistent time travel philosophical thing that any movie, like Back to the Future, makes me want to throw. I love that movie, but it makes me want to throw my DVD player out the window because it doesn't make any sense. This to me makes complete and total sense and makes a universe that I can understand. So
it would just be much easier if they said, "Oh man, here's Earth 1 and Earth 2. Who gives a shit about going back to 1666 to get there?"
I'm telling you, Adam, you gotta watch more YouTube videos about Schrodinger's cat, man.
I
It'll
have
blow your
way
mind.
better stuff to do than watching TEDx of some professor. I have plenty of shit I can do.
Um, anything else? I mean, I feel like we got. I was happy we got Miss Minutes back, and that Miss Minutes is sort of like Kang's personal digital assistant, and she's just helping him cause havoc. I felt like that paid off. I felt like they did an okay job paying off the school. You know, like Ravana was a principal, and you know that's her background.
Yeah, I
I,
felt they tied up strings well enough.
let's talk a little bit about Adam. You mentioned timelines on this, so I still don't get a sense of how many Disney Plus shows we're getting a year. This year we're getting 6. I don't know if that's we're getting more because COVID stuff backed them up. We know She-Hulk and Moon Knight are in development or in production and maybe even are finished filming. I don't know, are close. Those are coming out in the first half of next year. We know that Secret Invasion is starting up here soon. But then after that, Echo and Ironheart and Armor Wars and Loki 2, all of that stuff seems to be a 2022 production. Most of these things need a year turnaround. So, like, I'm trying to figure out, are we only getting 3 or 4 shows next year? Like, it's been a little confusing to me on that front. But
No, we'll get. I mean, we'll get What If season 2 too. We'll probably get Echo next year. They're fast tracking Echo.
okay, so you think they'll film that in January, but be able to turn it around and be ready by
Right. I'm assuming Echo will be out before Ironheart or Armor Wars, because they haven't even formed the Armor Wars writers room yet. They don't even have a showrunner.
Yeah.
Same for Ironheart. Certain things need to happen for Ironheart to even come out anyways first, so I don't see there's a rush there. But I think Echo is the easiest to get together.
I could also see Echo being a much more in camera, not so much VFX house heavy project.
Yeah,
so.
what else? I mean, depends on how they do like her powers and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But even then, that's I don't. There's not alien worlds to model and stuff like that, unless they actually take Echo to hell for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And do Mephisto like most people are theorizing, or Marduk. You know, that Hellstrom cross. So Hellstrom's canon now, guys. So I wonder what timeline is.
I feel like
Daredevil
using
in.
the word canon is a little bit extreme.
Everything is canon.
Everything has potential to be canon.
Yes,
Here's
that's right.
what's insane. Okay, so we're talking infinite timelines. So we're talking, if there's infinite timelines in the Marvel
Sure, there's a timeline
there's
out
still
there.
not enough to make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon.
I'm saying this is what would be fascinating is if Feige hates something that was made so badly that he's like, no, we could bring it into the multiverse. We're just not going to because we hate it.
This multiverse is infinite, and it's still not it. I mean, it works for DC. I'm applaud James Gunn for saying that. How he didn't really throw shade at Marvel, but he says he identifies more with DC because they can do all sorts of other stuff. I mean, they can do Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the same universe they're doing Crypto the Superdog or whatever, you know. And it's technically it's all
But here's the
canon
thing-
because it's
well,
the DC multiverse.
And so nothing matters anymore in the Marvel universe too. So if there's something that happened that they don't want to matter anymore, it's not going to matter. Like there'll always be this explanation now of, well, there's the multiverse. Oh, well, yeah, time travel. Yeah, and to me the stakes are a little bit lower, and
that's why you have the Marvel Cinematic Timeline. There we go, the MCT. You have that one timeline that's the MCU, and all the other timelines can do whatever.
So
making
the way
everything canon harms nothing. It harms nothing at all.
So I'm with you, Rhiannon. If everything is canon, then it doesn't matter. You can kill Quicksilver. There's billions of other Quicksilvers.
mm-hmm.
I think they've set it up right though, that the fan is now a little bit like Kang, in that we have a sacred timeline. There is the core timeline, the sacred timeline, the MCU that we all love. And it is more important and more significant than the other stuff. So yeah, it sort of canonizes Ben Affleck's Daredevil, but that's not sacred timeline. That's a multiverse. And I do think that what happens in the sacred timeline is still of greater importance and is like a canon within the canon for us fans, and they have to maintain that or else we really won't care. Like it doesn't matter that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man died if you're just going to pop up another RDJ Iron Man out of nowhere. Like that is a problem. And so they're
doing that with Kang, who's the next big Marvel villain.
No, that's fair. I think that there are going to be characters who they allow that leeway more than others. So Loki and Kang are sort of these cosmic Joker wild cards that will be fine if we get lots of versions of.
It allows us to get a different Tony Stark back. RDJ doesn't have to. I mean, we just went through variants. They could do all sorts of stuff, and it's not going to be the same Iron Man, because then we fall back into the trap. Well, are Loki and Sylvie actually the same people? Right. Doesn't that discount them if they're both Loki and all that stuff?
But I'm saying they shouldn't do that. We should not be getting another Iron Man anytime soon, another Tony Stark anytime soon, because that will devalue the whole thing. If it's just, every time somebody dies, we'll just replace them with another actor.
Who's devaluing it? You're devaluing it because, I mean, that Tony Stark still died. That Tony Stark still suffered. That Tony Stark still gave up his life for that timeline. I mean, this Tony Stark, who knows? Maybe he's a complete asshole. Maybe he's the Tony Stark in the Illuminati that looks nothing like Robert Downey Jr. Maybe it's Tony Stark with an I instead of a Y or something. Maybe it's
right,
else.
But you have to me, it's just an inherent rule of the world. Like scarcity creates value. And so if they're giving us a new Tony Stark every 3 weeks, it just is less valuable inherently.
But the Marvel Cinematic Universe is essentially a comic storyline. Michael Waldron writes 6 episodes of a series for someone else to pick up the pieces, and that writer's going to write it.
But for me, that's why I love the MCU so much more than I love the comics universe, because the comic universe at times does feel cheap and deaths don't matter because people always come back, and like it doesn't mean anything.
There will be another Iron Man in the MCU at some point. I mean, the MCU is not going away. They are going to run through everything and have to bring back Iron Man and Captain America and all that stuff, and Tony Stark. I mean, at some point, it's like Star Wars, man. The MCU is going to outlive all 3 of us, right? And that
makes me sad. I selfishly want to see it end. Like, I hope that in my 60s they like wrap it up so I can say I saw the whole thing.
Right, but I don't think it cheapens any of it. I mean, maybe it does, but I mean,
I just think
Stark still gave up his life and saved that universe.
There's a reason why Uncle Ben always stays dead in the comics. Like, they mess with everything else, but Uncle Ben stays dead because it's important that he stays dead for Peter's development.
And we all know Tony Stark is the new Uncle Ben. So
correct. Yeah. No, that's kind of where I'm going. Yeah.
All right, but I mean, they're gonna bring something. I mean, Yondu's gonna be in Guardians 3, at least in a flashback or multiversal thing, since they did have to rewrite Guardians 3 or something. I mean, it goes back to the prequel thing. Either prequels aren't cheap because prequels are still stories. You know, obviously we know what happens to the characters afterwards, but that doesn't cheapen that story. I mean, that still has the right to be a quality story.
Well, and
this is why I try to get you to read Hellboy.
All that we really need are quality stories. If they do it and it makes sense and it's a quality story, I'm getting tired of, I feel like the past 3 shows we watched were just setting up something else. Like they had a good story within them, but really, what journey did Loki go on that we haven't seen before? Like, I feel like the character, fine, by the end, he could love, he felt, he might have been good. We don't even know. But we've already seen a journey of Loki going from, becoming a better person. As long as we have good stories, and I'm ready for some stories that are about the story, and that's why Black Widow felt so refreshing after these series. Give us good stories.
Right. So if you guys had to rank the 3 shows thus far, how would you rank them as we wrap this up?
Good question. Loki, then the other 2 are probably interchanged. I would say, I don't know. Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty inconsistent too. I liked WandaVision save for the finale. But then the Falcon and Winter Soldier was both consistent and more inconsistent. Schrodinger's Disney Plus show.
I mean, the only thing I've wanted to go back and rewatch is Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I don't know if that's because it's the better series. Just I enjoyed the characters there.
Right. I would argue it's also the most complete too. You could hop into Falcon and Winter Soldier not knowing what's going on and get something out of it. So I'd probably put Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, then WandaVision. Loki would probably be the only out of the 3 to crack my overall MCU top 10.
And I'm not sure. I mean, like I rewatched Falcon Winter Soldier a little bit. I haven't had any desire to go back and rewatch WandaVision at all. I don't have any real desire to go back and watch Loki. But probably, I mean, I think for quality and everything, probably WandaVision, Falcon, and Loki.
Yeah. I'm WandaVision, Loki, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I love WandaVision, and I think it is one of my top 10 MCUs. I love WandaVision so much. But this, like I said, I felt like this, I think we can all agree this is the best finale of, as far as finales goes, the best finale of the 3 shows we've had so far. So
yeah, I can't believe I'm even saying this. I wanted it to have more action. Like, am I the only person that misses Loki using magic? Like,
right, they didn't even get into that hardly.
Yeah, I really wanted to see like Loki using magic. And I mean, last time I talked, we were talking about like the TVA fights. Maybe Loki's not that good because he's having to struggle to not use magic at the TVA. But after Elias, like with Kang, like I feel like that the 2 Lokis fighting, there was so much potential to have like a very cool magic competition. Like I don't know. I feel like there's unexplored Loki potential that we didn't get to see.
Well, and we talked about that long conversation about duplications versus illusions, and that felt like it would be a plot point. And no, it was just an elaborate in-joke, right. I think. So
yeah.
So we have a ton of stuff in the mailbag real quick. Cool. Love Waffle was talking about Black Widow. And he was saying the biggest thing Love Waffle didn't like about Black Widow was the way the movie ends with Taskmaster, because Taskmaster treats what's his name? Dreykov as a bad guy in the end that she was like subjected to. And he's like, Nat is the one that did this to her. Like like in ultimately Black Widow did far, like maybe not far more, but she did terrible things to her. And the idea that at the end she'd be like, oh, we're both girls and I had that red dust in my nose, so now I like you and I hate my dad. It's like she should still hate Nat's guts. Like Nat still blew her up when she was 6 years old. Like that is not that was something that was too easily overcome, you know?
Do you think she knew Nat was responsible for that explosion? I mean, other than did she overhear the conversation?
Yeah, she was there when Dreykov talked about it.
So, but still, her whole life, her dad was manipulating her into a machine. Like, I don't know. No.
Yeah. At the same time, he was saving her life from being blown up. You know, like it's okay for her to not like her dad, but the idea that then she gets to the ground and she's like, hey, Nat, don't worry about it. That whole blowing me up as a child thing, no big deal. That was probably something that should have been developed a little more.
Yeah.
We might have to talk with Villanueva about this or something. I would like to see someone re-edit Black Widow without any Taskmaster shots and see if anything actually changes.
Yeah. Then we had somebody named Little Bingo say Loki and Sylvie were snuggling under a blanket and holding hands. Do fans think that's just good friends behavior?
We got the kiss. I mean,
yeah, we got a kiss this time. I don't know. Is snuggling under a blanket necessarily romantic, or like, I don't know, haven't you sat under a blanket at a cold football game with a friend that you weren't necessarily like attracted to?
Nope. Only do that with people I'm attracted to.
No.
Romantically.
Blanket snuggling is limited to
Blanket snuggling is strictly sexy time.
I mean, I think when you're stranded on at the end of the earth and there's nothing to do, like there's different emotional circumstances as well. But I'll snuggle under a blanket with whoever, if I'm in that circumstance. But
if you're in Antarctica, you're gonna snuggle with whoever.
yeah. I mean, if I'm at the end of the world, at the end of the timeline, and I'm cold and I'm getting ready to go into battle, like who cares? I'm gonna hold hands to warm them up, and I'm gonna snuggle. And that's one of the. I mean, like if I'm gonna have a big gripe about Loki, like that relationship, I realize that we're dealing with two characters that don't wear their emotions on their sleeve. But I feel like they left a lot of it up to ambiguity when it could have been a little bit more clear, or there could have been more value to it being more expressed. See, and also, like,
I loved the ambiguity, but yeah.
Yeah, I also, in hindsight, I'm a little bit miffed. I mean, like they confirmed Loki's bisexuality and then just threw him straight into a hetero relationship. But Disney's gonna Disney, so
it's interesting. I've seen LGBTQ advocates though saying that like requiring a bi person to end up with someone of the same gender is sort of not respecting and understanding what it means to be bi. So I don't know. I can see it both ways.
I respect that too.
Yeah. Dave said he was wondering if the man behind the curtain would be a Sylvie variant. It was not. So over on Twitter, Alvy. So I had thrown out the theory that maybe Sylvie is is adopted and is Loki, but is not a frost giant. But apparently some of the paperwork, if you read carefully, has Sylvie listed as her last name as Laufey daughter, meaning she's the daughter of Laufey. So she is a frost giant from Laufey, just the same as our Loki is. So that was very clever and a good catch that I did not recognize. And then I have one more. Matt Turner Toad was said something to us. I'm trying to find it. My Twitter has really been more busy lately. I'm struggling to find it. It was something about the show. Thank you, Matt Turner Toad, for listening. I'm going to pause for just one more second, but if I can't find it, I got it.
Oh, the only thing that we didn't talk about was the Deadpool Korg video.
Oh, yeah.
Which was just lovely. That's all.
That took place in Earth 2019, June 6th. What happened on June 6th, 2019? Besides Korg and Deadpool meeting, what was the Nexus event? Is he in the MCU now? Is Deadpool in the MCU?
I don't think commercials count as MCU personally, but
Yeah, it was interesting.
I mean, there's a commercial where Loki is talking about car insurance with the Geico Gecko. I don't think that means the
Canon.
Geico Gecko is
Everything. That's what I'm saying. Everything's canon now. Why not? Everything,
Yeah.
if they want it to be, is canon.
I mean, if Feige wanted to screw with us, I would just be doing tons of stuff like that. Like just have commercials that have Phil Coulson and, you know, Rocket Raccoon and just play with everybody.
There's powered people in the MCU and they are going to sell their services. You know, I mean, it's the boys.
Yeah,
So
it's
watch the boys.
Adam. Every time you say everything is canon, it immediately makes me think of The Incredibles, where they like tell their kids everyone is special, and the kids like, if everyone is special, then no one is special. If everything is canon, canon is meaningless. Canon is specifically a subset of things that are different and held apart from the rest of everything else.
Every live action Marvel thing that Disney owns the live action rights to is canon. How about that? I'll make a list. Blade 1, Blade 2, Blade 3, no, not Spider-Man. Generation X from the late 1990s, that's canon. All the X-Men movies, that's canon.
X-Men the animated series.
X-Men the
I can get on
animated
board with
series
this.
is canon. That's why I think, and I'm saying this right now, in either No Way Home or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we are either going to get a Spider-Verse cameo from Sony, or we are going to get some animated or Earth 616 cameo in Doctor Strange.
That'd be interesting.
Stick a fork in it. They are going to bring Earth 616 or the animated stuff in officially. Or what if people, I mean, Captain Carter might show up as herself, live action self. I mean, Haley Alwell was there. I think that's where she's filming Mission Impossible 7. So
I finally found Matt Turner's tweet, and he's on vacation with his family, and he sent us a picture of an alligator. So
Aww.
a picture of an alligator. Stay safe, Matt. Australia
Right,
to us Americans always sounds like a wilderness of terrifying things that could kill you. So
right, are you sure he's on vacation, or was he just like chilling out by the barbecue in the backyard and the alligator just so happened to be there?
For those of us who grew up with Crocodile Dundee, Australia, no one wears sleeves on their shirts, and they all have alligators in their backyard, and they are constantly cooking shrimp on the barbie. So,
without the shrimp, that's just Florida.
As far as the show, guys, I do not know what our recording schedule is. We'll take probably some break between now and What If. If I had to guess, we'll definitely pod if there's a No Way Home trailer, which I would assume there will be in the next week or two, but we'll just play it by ear. Thanks for listening.
As always,
Patreon
at Charles Murphy to get your latest Spider-Man No Way Home updates.
That's right. If you want to know when the trailer is, just ask Charles. Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate it. Helps everything keep going. Thanks for following us on social media, and we'll see you guys later.